when we left Ruth, Boaz's negotiations at the gate were finished. And from there, if you will go to Ruth 4:13. It says, so Boaz took Ruth, and she became his wife. And he went in to her, and the Lord gave her conception, and she bore a son. And I spoke to you earlier about finding the way that I look at things sometimes not correct. I've read that a good novel is going to tell you who, what, where, when, and how. Boy, I'm missing a lot of that here. We go straight from a negotiation to, and Boaz went and took Ruth as his wife. Now, if I had written this, I would have said, and Boaz, leaving the meeting, passed a woman with dark brown hair, some gray in it, skin leathered, carrying or selling beautiful flowers, and he picks up this bouquet. And as he walks out, people are congratulating him and saying, congratulations, Boaz, on your upcoming marriage. And as he walks down the road, his heart ponders and races with great love and anticipation to get to her door to tell her the results of this negotiation. I would have written it that way, right? Who, what? Yes, exactly. Who, what, where, when, how. We have none of that here. We go from negotiation to they're married. So anyway, along that road, I just want to tie a few little things in that I thought was nice. So we know that the Jewish wedding at that time, which would be my when, in that civilization and in that culture, which is my whose, would have done a wedding similar to the groom would have approached the father. They would have negotiated. He would have given the bride a ring. We would call that an engagement ring. He would go back. He would prepare a place for her. When the appointed time came, her wedding party would be waiting with her outside with lamps. Boaz, would have built I would have called it a pavilion. It's 4 rods with draping canopies over the top of it. It's beautiful. And they will go and stand underneath this. So he will go. This happens at night now, these weddings. These weddings don't happen in the daytime. They have been changed now for the sake of how they live these days. But in those days, they were done at night. So he would leave his home. And remember, he's prepared it now for her. Go down the road to her house, her mother's house. And he would go into her chambers, and he indeed would put a veil on her. He would guide her out with the veil, and the young ladies would precede them to his house with lanterns in their hands, lighting the path as they would go. And when I read that, I thought about another story that we had read about 10 wise and 10 foolish virgins. And 10 wise kept their they kept their lamps trimmed. They constantly were watching, even though they slept. They were prepared. They woke up, they trimmed their lamps, they was ready to go. The foolish did not prepare. They had no plan B. And they were left as they traveled down the road. Those that were prepared went on into the marriage supper. Those who were not prepared had to go buy oil. So when they come back, he's like, I don't know who you are. This was an actual depiction of what really did happen in a Jewish wedding back then. But on the way to going from her house to his house, they came to this pavilion, and they would stand up under this pavilion. They would say whatever vows that was prevalent at that time. And then from there, they would travel on. So, what would a bride wear? In Psalms 45, 11 through 14, this is called the marriage psalms, the love psalms. And so I'm going to start with 11, Psalms 45:11. Forget also thine own people and thy father's house. So shall the king greatly desire thy beauty. For he is Lord, and worship thou him. And the daughters of Tyre shall be there with a gift. Even the rich among the people shall entreat your favor. The king's daughter is all glorious within. Her clothing is of wrought gold. And another interpretation of that is it's embroidered with gold threads. She will be brought into the king with the raiment of needlework. The virgins, her companions that follow her, shall be brought unto thee. This was just a short expounding on that verse to let us know what she could have possibly been wearing. She could have possibly been wearing white embroidered with gold, even though it doesn't tell us this. He could have possibly been wearing white, signifying that the relationship he was going to go into was going to be a pure one that would stand before the Lord. And out of this came a young child named Boaz. Boaz's name means servant. And after Ruth gave birth to Boaz, the women around Naomi said to her, let me see if I can find this. Hold on. I'm sorry. Give me a moment. I don't know about you, Farrell, but I can have all the paper in the world I want. When I get to rolling, it doesn't do me much good. Yeah, right? Yeah. So, when the women said to Naomi, this is after the birth of Boaz. No, after the birth of Obed. I'm sorry, I misspoke that. Obed is the young baby, and his name is the one that means servant. The women said to Naomi, blessed be the Lord who has not left you this day without a close relative. And may his name be famous in Israel. May he be to you a restorer of life and a nourisher of your old age. For your daughter-in-law who loves you and who is better to you than 7 sons has borne him. And Naomi took the child, laid him on her bosom, and she became nurse to him. From that day forward, she became what we would call a nanny, and she raised this child. And the women were speaking over her the fact that this child, when he was raised up to become a man, in her old age, there would be an heir to take care of her should she outlive Naomi and Boaz. There would always be that guarantee that she would have someone to take care of her. She would not go back into the situation that she was in when her first husband passed away. And then as we go ahead and we read down, we find out that David comes out of that lineage, and so does Jesus come out of that lineage. So this is a wonderful story of God's restoration, of restoring to people the things that the cankerworm has destroyed. It's a beautiful story of keeping the lineage of Jesus alive. And I hope you have. I hope you've gotten something out of this as we've looked into the who, what, where, whens, and whys of the story that the Bible doesn't always tell us. When you can bring it out of, when you let the Holy Spirit show you and bring it out of the text and into your heart and into your reality, it takes on a whole nother meaning. So does anyone have anything that was significant for them out of Ruth that they'd like to share? Something that stood out to them? That was okay. Right.
It gives us hope today because there are things that God is doing behind the doors of our lives that we have no clue.
Right.
And it goes back to us having an element of trust to say He's God enough to work behind the scenes and get things right without me having to have my hands on the steering wheel.
Right.
And I know for me especially with the capacity comes up, I have to put my hands on the steering wheel a lot. But whenever you study books like Ruth, this is the book that this is the Old Testament book version of Romans chapter 8 verse 28 that says He works all things together. I'd say this book and Esther, but more so this book, where he works all things together. Like this is the Old Testament book form of that one verse. Because if you can grasp the fullness of this book, you can get to the conclusion of that verse of Romans.
Right.
And if you can get to that conclusion, then there you find the fulfillment of Hebrews chapter 4, where it says that there's a rest that remains for the people of God.
Right.
And that rest is be still and know that I am God.
Correct.
That you don't have to strive for anything. Naomi, Ruth, they didn't have to strive for anything because it was already in the plan. So whenever we get into the book of Ruth and we understand that it is teaching us a lesson that the more we strive, the more we get out of the plan.
Right.
So, which is the opposite of if we just stay in rest, which is trust, which is faith, then He's working and connecting the dots all together.
Correct.
That's what I've always loved about it.
Right. But He also didn't take away the physical burden of everyday life while that was going on. They didn't physically just sit back and say, "Okay, God, I'm waiting on you. Polish my fingernails." They actually were still going about their everyday life. They were trusting God in the life.
Funny you say that because, and I don't know if Pastor Rich caught this, but in the morning session of our lead conference that we had in Lake Charles, our morning speaker, Dr. Brian Jarrett, he actually brought up Ruth.
He did.
And he,
I was
and
listening. I was like,
yeah, and when he's like the way he said this was awesome. And I think it's on the Louisiana Network page, so like you can go back and watch the sermon. He said like he talked about how Ruth stumbled into the plan of God. Because really his entire message was that they were finding the will of God. Ruth stumbled into the will of God. I mean, think about it. I mean, she marries a man. Her husband dies. Her husband's mother is going back to the place where they worship the true God, who is actually real and not an idol.
Right.
She stumbles into the Jewish religion, becomes a Jew, and then reaps all the benefits.
Correct.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
And you can connect that to in Matthew 13 and Mark 3, how when Jesus gives the parable of the pearl of great price and the one who found the treasure, the treasure in the field.
Right.
There's seekers and then there's stumblers. Because the man sought the great pearl while the man stumbled upon the treasure. Ruth stumbled upon the treasure of Naomi and her family. And she reaped the benefits of the treasure which was in Jehovah, that she didn't have in none of her idol gods.
Right.
So she just stumbled into the will of God for her life. And I know for me, we racked our brains out daily wondering whether or not we're in the will of God. When if it was this easy for Ruth under an inferior covenant, how much easier should it be for us under Christ? I mean, we should be stumbling into. I mean, Job in the book of Job, it says that I remember when my feet were bathed with cream. Speaking of now, if you like bathe your feet in butter, it's gonna be slippery, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I like to say like we can slip into the will of God and not even know it. You know, I mean that's kind of give me like a what for sign, but like you can like slip into the will of God and you not even realize that you're in the will of God. But like you're racking your brain out trying to not trying to figure it out, and here God's saying like you just slipped into it and you didn't even know it.
Right. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, that's what I love about this God.
Yeah.
She just slipped right into it.
I think Ruth also, the book of Ruth also, you know, I could like be by myself and be fine, you know what I'm saying? But I think the book of Ruth makes me think more of the fact that they weren't alone.
Right.
You know, Ruth had Naomi. Naomi had Ruth. As much as Ruth did for Naomi, what did Naomi do for Ruth? You know, she guided her. When things started happening, in Sunday school we learned that, you know, Naomi had her aha moment because she was all bitter and everything. Oh, me, oh my. And then when she realized, oh, so you was in Boaz's field, huh? And then it's like, and then she's like, well, just so happened he's one of our kinsmen redeemers and in God's life. And then she starts changing her attitude, you know, and she's like, you know what? Naomi started having hope again.
Right.
You know, it's like he didn't forget about me and stuff like that. And so she's like, this is what you need to do, sweetheart.
I have to laugh because they said it Sunday morning and then it clicked, right? I mean, I've been reading this for how long and then it clicks. She says, he's one of ours. So right there in the beginning, there was already in her mind, she already knew there was another closer redeemer because he's one of ours. And it didn't click till she said that. I'm like, how did that pass?
I was in Boaz's field, but she wasn't just gleaning in that field alone. She was gleaning in fields, and she says, I stumbled into Boaz's field. You know, so it wasn't like go to Boaz's field. This is the boundary. She didn't know. You know, I was gleaning, and I happened to come across and was gleaning with everybody else, all the other poor folks in Boaz's field. And her mother-in-law was like,
Yeah. King James Version says just so happened. Sometimes I wonder if that's not the Holy Ghost Spirit's nickname, just so happened. Just so happened showed up. Because there is no just so happened. Yeah, there isn't.
The butter is already before you. You know, you just got.
Yes.
some weed and some butter.
Yeah.
The butter is all just sitting on the ground waiting for you to step on.
One other thing, though, that I had looked up that I thought was interesting when we talk about Jewish marriages is that the grooms, now get this because it connected another dot for me. The groom will go out and purchase wedding garments for all those invited to the wedding. And I always wondered why, when the rich man prepared a banquet and all of his friends had other things to do, and then he says, okay, fine, go out into the hedges and highways and the byways and bring those people in. And they did. Then he steps out into this crowd, okay? And he goes to one man and he says, why are you, how did you get in here? Where is your wedding robes? Well, he doesn't have them. So he tells his servants, bind him and cast him out. So the thing about that is, I just found that to be so interesting because I never even stopped to realize that he had purchased the robes. And if you had come by his invitation and not snuck in, you would have had one of those robes. You know, we go back to the shepherd. We go back to he is the gate. He is the way you enter in. So I found that to be very interesting when I read that. Another point she brought up, which was interesting, is how many names did Naomi have before she became the wife? Naomi the Moabite. She was Naomi, the woman in her country who married the Israelites, so there's a stigma attached to that. We know that. Then she's Naomi the barren because they never could have children. And then she's Naomi the widow. And then she gets to Naomi's people, and now she's the Moabite again, and she's the foreigner, and she's the widow. And then when she marries Boaz, this is all changed around. And then she becomes the beloved, and she becomes the loved and the wanted. And that's what Jesus does for us. He takes us out of and takes all of our names, and they're buried in our past. They're buried in the blood. Whoever we were was forgiven, and now we're able to come up, put on those garments of a child of God, and walk in and enjoy the banquet he prepares before us as we slide on in. So did anybody else get anything out of Ruth? What's that? All right. Well then. No, it wasn't. It really wasn't. Yeah. Correct. Yeah. Yeah. It does. And their lifespans were longer than ours. So more than likely, yeah, they would have been alive to have seen King David. That's where I have the big map. I need to bring it one day and put it up for us to look at. Just watch it.
Wow, there was that many at one time alive.
Yeah, there were that many people in the Bible alive at the same time. When I would think, because in my mind I think, okay, one's there, blank, he's cut off. The next one's there, blank, he's cut off. But it's not. You know, it was one family. It just kept going. So, all right, Farrell, you want to pray? Or unless you have something else you'd like to say, which I will love to hear. Okay, good.